The notion of media objectivity is a myth. All journalists, however objective they seek to be or claim to be, have a point of view, a hermeneutic, that drives their interpretation of events. A journalist may therefore see himself or herself as objective in his or her reporting and still be biased in his or her judgment of events. In such circumstances, bias lies in the hermeneutic itself, rather than in blatant prejudice per se. This begs the question, what drives our journalists and what values animate their treatment of events? It is simply not enough to give what might be loosely termed both points of view in a story. Oftentimes there are more than two points of view. Nor are all views of equal merit. Furthermore, it can be socially irresponsible to give voice to some views. A journalist deeply committed to a social, cultural, religious or political vision will tend to think objectivity lies in his or her own worldview. A journalist may see himself as the personification of integrity, objectivity and even-handedness, yet to others appear as anything but. Since objectivity and integrity are highly prized in reporting, it is not surprising that journalists should seek to project these qualities in their reporting. However, there is a real difference between projecting a persona of objectivity and integrity and living out the reality of these principles. Indeed, anyone who has sought to live out these ideals knows that true objectivity and integrity are often confused with bias and partisanship, while bias and partisanship are often disguised by apparent objectivity and integrity. While journalists are quick to identify corruption, collusion and prejudice with politics, when it comes to journalism they are often slow to recognise the same in operation among their own ranks. With freedom goes responsibility. Often the hard-hitting journalist succeeds because his or her moral compass is reset to place the crusading journalist always in the right. The journalist with a conscience comes off as more reserved and less competent than the go-getter. While media ownership is often a major issue in tabloids, not so the question of journalistic integrity at the level of hermeneutics. A journalist occupies a position of social responsibility. We have a right to ask where journalists are coming from and what values, attitudes and beliefs inform their judgments. All journalists are partisan and involved in advocacy journalism, at least at some level. However, with the age of infotainment, the issue has become more acute. Further complicating the issue of integrity is the deadline, editorial oversight and the need to produce a marketable product. The fact that journalists are in the infotainment business must always be remembered. Like politicians and lobbyists, they have a vested interest in what they produce. While politicians are answerable to the media, the ballot box and their own party notaries, the journalist is part of a corporate structure and a member of a privileged social caste with its own agendas. Indeed, one of the pressing problems within journalism is the rise of a journalistic point of view, bordering on a secularised religion, in which journalists take on the role of priest and functionaries. The enlightened elite positions its target audience so as to be passive and submissive in imposing its will on the people. The press is no more free than parliamentary democracy is the authentic voice of the people. In the Western world, the journalist today generally belongs to a liberal elite, trained in liberal faculties, within universities, and form a fairly close-knit community of their own. While genuine media freedom is important for a healthy society, it must always be remembered that this freedom can also be turned against society. Not all freedom is good, nor all restraint bad. It is all about balance, responsibility and integrity, qualities that, if we are to be truthful, are reasonably rare.